Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is RainbowDave, and I feel like I need to address something. There's been a lot of talk recently in some places about the copyright status of mods and of maps. Now, you guys know I tend to take copyright pretty seriously. I try to do whatever research I can to make sure I'm staying within the lines. Before I begin properly, let me just be clear. I don't have any reason to make this video other than to educate. This video is not intended to attack, belittle, or criticize any single person or group of people. It's intended to be educational about how exactly copyright applies to mods and how the Giants' terms of service impact that copyright. I should point out that I'm not a lawyer, and this is in no way to be taken as legal advice. Let me be blunt to begin. Mods are copyrightable works, and are copyrighted by the creators. Now let me explain exactly what that means for players, modders, and most importantly for me, and because this is YouTubers. Seeing as there seems to be a certain group of people who don't completely understand what copyright is, how it applies, and how the Giants' terms of service applies to mods. So at this point I'll point out again that I'm not a lawyer. This is in no way supposed to be taken as legal advice. This is just reading the terms of service and explaining them. First off, copyright. This is a mess. It's a mess of different laws worldwide, so I'm gonna be general. I'm not gonna be specific. Copyright normally applies to anything that's created, and it applies automatically. So your favorite books, songs, movies, and TV shows are probably all covered by it. Copyright laws exist to protect creators from plagiarism or copying, and they're different from country to country. So I can't say with certainty how long it lasts for, but it's at least 30, maybe 40 years from creation. Most of the time it's more. But that's why albums from the likes of Elvis and the Beatles get re-released from time to time. It resets the copyright. The intention of copyright is to protect the people that make the things that you enjoy. Games, maps, mods, scripts, everything. It's all copyrighted, and in theory the creator can give permission to copy the mod as a whole or parts of it, or issue copyright complaints if their mod has been used without their permission. This is different when a mod is part of a community where ideas and material is shared between people, like in a modding team or between friends. In these situations it's understood between everyone there's a common goal being worked towards of great mods. Now knowing what copyright is, how exactly does this apply to Farming Simulator? Obviously, the copyright belongs to the modder and the modder alone, right? Nope. Well, kinda. See, there's a few sections of the Giants' terms of service that deal with mods, so let's take a look at them and I'll explain as we go. User-generated mods or mods license. If the customer creates user-generated content for the games, he retains the right to the content he's created. The customer grants Giants the rights to use user-generated content created by the customer. This bit is pretty straightforward, actually. It's Giants basically saying, okay, so if you guys make mods, that's perfectly fine by us. You keep your copyright, but we can do whatever we want with the mod. More on the we can do what we want bit in a moment. The customer warrants that at the time of creation, use, or distribution of the mods, he is the holder of the user rights to the user-generated content created by the customer. Furthermore, the customer warrants that the user-generated content created by the customer does not infringe any copyright or third-party rights. Again, this is pretty straightforward. It basically means that you own the copyright to your mod and you're not infringing copyright or any other rights, which is, I think, left intentionally vague to protect Giants. If somebody has a weird issue or something like that. But it's quite straightforward. The next section is where I've seen people trip up. So I'm going to break it down into smaller sections and deal with them individually. If the customer creates, disseminates, exchanges, sends, transfers, publishes, or uploads any user-generated content for the games, it shall automatically grant the user rights described below to Giants, without the need for Giants to obtain permission or pay for the user-generated content. Putting this bit into plain English is easy. If you make or upload anything related to Farm Sim, Giants has your automatic permission to use it, and they don't gotta pay a penny. Through the dissemination, exchange, sending, transfer, publication, uploading, or public disclosure of the user-generated content online, the customer shall grant Giants the global, free of charge, non-time limited, irrevocable, non-exclusive, and fully sub-licensable right to copy, distribute, publish, modify, translate, archive, and store the user-generated content created by the user, and to create edits of it in any form and format, and in currently available and hereafter developed media. The customer shall waive any moral rights which it holds to the user-generated content generated by the customer. This is again pretty easy to put into English. Giants can take your picture, or mod, or map, or script, or video, or whatever you upload that uses Farm Sim. They can do what they want with it, put it on TV, YouTube, Twitch, wherever they want. And you can't complain about it, even if what Giants have done offends you in some way. Through the distribution, exchange, sending, transfer, publication, and uploading of the user-generated content generated by the customer shall otherwise acknowledge that other users may use the user-generated content. Giants shall not be liable for the actions of other users which may infringe rights to the generated user content. In the case of disputes with other users, the customer himself shall be responsible for contacting the affected users asserting any claims. This is the bit that people trip up on, so I'm gonna be as clear as I can with my explanation here. This point deals with publishing mods and how copyright applies when it's been put somewhere. When you upload your mod or video or whatever, other people might use it. That's generally accepted. Giants are not to blame for what people do. Pretty basic, really, and there's no controversy there. But the last bit is where people seem to get confused. In the case of disputes with other users, the customer themselves shall be responsible for contacting the affected users asserting any claims. This would seem to contradict everything so far, right? I mean, you've already agreed multiple times that Giants can use whatever you've made however they want. Surely that means you have no rights to it anymore. As with everything, it's not quite that easy, though. It's worded a bit strangely. But what it means, basically, is if you make something like a mod or a map or a video or even just take a screenshot, you still own the copyright to it. If someone's uploaded to a questionable website or someone's released their own edit without your permission or even just used your mod in a way you don't like, copyright's kind of weird. People can apply it in different ways. Kind of sucks like that. You can go after them. Ask them to take the mod, video, screenshot, map, edit, whatever, down, or take whatever action is necessary, including in extreme circumstances lodging copyright complaints with YouTube. Just to assert your rights. I think some of the confusion here comes from the wording, because it is, like I said, a bit strange. But it makes it pretty clear that if you have an issue, it's not Giant's problem, and you've got to deal with it yourself. Again, with sub-communities, like mod teams and between friends, this rarely applies. And mods for private use don't count here. This is for, anything that's released publicly. If you're editing something for your own use, that's fair use. Plus, most modders, if they're doing a major edit that they plan on releasing, will tend to approach people whose mods they want to edit. The customer shall grant Giants a free of charge user license for all online user-generated content which he creates or shares during his use of Giants Editor and or the online service, on an open-ended basis, in perpetuity, irrevocably, without restriction or limitation, for all currently available or hereafter designed devices, formats, or forms, which can be granted, transferred, leased, published, or publicly and globally displayed for all objects or devices in the form of a license. This license shall primarily cover the rights to copy, alter, reproduce in part or in full, modify, develop, translate, use for any user-generated content, incorporate into other works, exclude in part or in full from elements and or the addition of elements, and the deletion, publication, distribution, sale, or commercialization thereof. This is another section that people seem to get tripped up by, because it seems to completely contradict the last section. In fact, when you read it, it just kind of repeats some of the other sections, specifically that giants can do what they want when they want with what you made. Why is this here? It specifically mentions giants editor and online, so it's giants just doubling down on covering themselves from the previous parts. Let's deal with what it doesn't say, but what some people think it does. Some people take this point to mean, oh, it was made using Giants Editor, therefore Giants own it, and I can do what I want with it. This isn't...
The first sentence is very specific about giving Giants a user license to anything created with GE.
A quick word on user licenses just to explain, and remember, I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, I've done some research though. User licenses allow the person or entity granted the license, which in this case is Giants, permission to use copyrighted content from the person or entity granting the license, in this case the modder. Now, if Giants actually owned every mod created with Giants Editor, like I've heard a lot of people say, that license and that sentence wouldn't need to exist. Neither would any mention of user licenses elsewhere in the terms of service. User licenses and licenses in general wouldn't need to be given to Giants if they owned the mods. The terms of service would literally say, by creating user-generated content, you agree to waive any rights to any content created, or something to that effect. I mean, that wording is nowhere to be seen in the terms. So it's pretty clear here that what Giants are saying is that while they can use anything made in Giants Editor however they want, that right doesn't extend to everyone else, because the copyright and all other rights for anything created in GE still belongs to the people who make the things in GE. Liability for user-generated content or mods. The customer warrants that at the time of creation, use, or distribution of the mods, he is the holder of the usage rights to the user-generated content created by the customer. Another simple bit here, this bit literally covers what I said in the previous section. When you create or upload a mod, you own the copyright and all the usage rights to your mod. I could have made this video really short, flashed this up on screen, explained it and called it a day, but I'm sure people would still have used the other points as in an argument. I've spoken to a few modders who genuinely had no idea they actually had copyright over their mods, and if they needed to, they could enforce it. So I figured this video would explain exactly how Giants deal with it, and how it's applied. I'm not done yet though, there's still more to go through because Giants have a bit more to say on the matter. The customer hereby declares and agrees that he is fully liable for the user-generated content and that Giants cannot be held responsible for the latter. The customer shall himself be directly liable to the third party in respect of any breach of third-party rights for which the customer is responsible. The customer shall be obliged to compensate Giants for all losses incurred that are due to the culpable disregard of the obligations arising from these special terms and conditions of use. This is where things get murky, shall we say. If, for example, John Deere are unhappy with people making farm sim mods of John Deere tractors, combines, and equipment, and decide for whatever reason to bring Giants to court, Giants could then take individual modders to court afterwards, as they didn't get permission to use John Deere brand name or make that exact tractor or whatever reason John Deere would give. Bear in mind, this is just an example. It hasn't happened and probably will never happen. But to give an example of what some modders do to counteract this potential problem, NI Modding have in the past worked directly with companies that make whatever piece of equipment they wanted to make a mod of. A recent example of that is the Major Muckout 750, which I'm led to believe not only had permission from Major, but may actually have had direct input from them as well. Obviously, this is never going to be an actual issue, as brands don't want to go to court for people effectively giving them free promotion, but it's Giants covering themselves in the off chance that it did actually happen one day. The customer shall be solely responsible for comments, opinions, or remarks which are expressed in user-generated content. Opinions of this type do not represent the opinion of Giants. Giants cannot be held responsible for comments, opinions, or remarks which are expressed in user-generated content, and any liability on the part of Giants is excluded in this regard. This bit's really simple. Anything you write on a mod, map, or anything else you make, for example, a first impression video on a new DLC that's just launched, isn't Giant's responsibility. If you make a farm sim video and throw insults at people, it's not Giant's responsibility or problem, and there's nothing Giants can do, so you can't sue Giants for something in a mod, video, or a picture. Giants shall not warrant in any way or make any statement with regard to the accuracy, currency, or validity of the information or elements in the user-generated content or in the online service, and cannot be held responsible for losses or damage which is caused by the use of these elements. This bit basically says Giants aren't responsible for keeping mods up to date or maintaining multiplayer servers. So if you somehow get hacked through a mod or a server, it's your problem, not Giants. The same goes for if a mod somehow causes your computer or console to levitate 3 feet off the ground, shout at you in Spanish, and suddenly burst into flames. Okay, that example was extreme and silly, but anything a mod does is your problem and Giants won't help. Again, protecting something against something, or protecting themselves against something that has happened in the past and it might happen again in the future. Indemnity against third-party claims. The customer shall indemnify Giants from all claims which are asserted by other customers or third parties with regards to Giants on grounds of an infringement of its rights due to content or other user-generated content uploaded by the customer, or due to the breach of other obligations. The customer shall also bear the costs of any necessary legal defence by Giants, including all court costs and lawyers' fees. This shall not apply if the customer is not responsible for the infringement. So let's finish with this bit. It's just Giants saying, again, that any issues you or anyone else might have with regards to copyright infringements by or of mods or user content, it's not the problem of Giants. If there's a disagreement between people and that copyright claim goes in, it's not Giants' fault, not Giants' problem. If something somehow ends up going to court and Giants have to defend themselves, whoever uploaded whatever Giants are being sued for has to pay, unless the creator of the content isn't responsible for the court case happening somehow. For example, if it was in good faith. Hopefully, you're all just a bit more educated on how copyright applies to farm sim mods and how the Giants terms of service apply to that copyright. Like I said before, I'm not a lawyer. Nothing contained in this video should be taken as legal advice. I'm just a guy who's read the document, looked at every word of it, and tried to decode the legalese into something a bit more understandable to the general public. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed and you found the video interesting, if not informative. If you want to leave a comment, I've left the comment section below open for your thoughts, but please remember this is a family-friendly channel. I've been RainbowDave, and until next time, stay safe, and goodbye.